Hello, the internet, and welcome to another episode of Enter the Popverse. Happy Friday, my friends. I am Ashley Victoria Robinson, your video producer and host here in the Popverse, and welcome to another episode of Enter the Popverse, our weekly roundup chat show where we are talking all the best, all the most exciting, and all the most thrilling in popular culture. If this is your first time, the Popverse is a virtual realm created by Read Pop, where we are celebrating the absolute best in TV, movies, and comics each and every week, each and every single day, each and every single hour of every single it's a lot of super fun stuff going on all the time, my friends. If you like anything that you see here, if you want any more details, if you want the complete and full stories, of course, be sure that you go to thepopverse.com, where you never miss a single thing that we're getting up to. If you want the full and complete Popverse experience, so you never ever miss a single gosh darn thing, make sure to get yourself a Popverse membership. And friends, let me tell you, I have some fun things to share with you about this a little bit later in the show. So not only is this a live show on the internet, not only are we curating and creating all kinds of incredible content for you, but we do some stuff IRL too. Our next live show is New York Comic Con, coming up in New York City, to quote Hamilton, the greatest city in the world. October 12th to 15th, I am going to be there. Everybody on Team Popverse is going to be there. And if you want to make sure that you get tickets for the full experience, everything you can check out right now on the ever evolving, always impressive New York Comic Con website. And also, fun fact, more deets about that later on in the show as well. I just want to tease that I am going to be hosting a little main stage panel while we're there. I'm going to be doing a bunch of stuff while I'm there, but this is the one I'm most excited to share with you. I am going to be hosting Ewan McGregor's Spotlight panel at New York Comic Con this year. Obi-Wan himself and I will be chatting. I hope if you come live that I get a chance to see you live. And look, that's me right there. There's really, really, really no words to tell you how excited I am to be hanging out with you and with everyone from Team Popverse, and hopefully with you at New York Comic Con this year. So just come on down and see us and hang out. Okay, friends, please join me in welcoming our first guest with a traditional Into the Popverse Theater Kid round of applause in welcoming our unofficial co-host and staff writer at the Popverse.com. Mr. Graeme McMillan is here today. Graeme, welcome to the show.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I too am fine.
Yeah, everything's fine in the Popverse today. We're doing fine. I am excited to have you with me today, though, because there's been some comic stuff, and I feel like you and I are getting into this great groove where we talk about like what is going on with comics, and please explain to me why it's important. And Image Comics is like showing out in a big way. They have a distro deal with Simon and Schuster now. You and I have talked about different distribution deals. We've talked about Simon and Schuster and Penguin Random House hopping on and investing in the comics train, but why is this such a big deal for Image specifically?
This is a very big deal for Image because this is the other shoe dropping. Image earlier this year, I think it was just last month, in fact, announced they were going with Lunar for comic store distribution and they were leaving Diamond behind. And at the time, there was a whole thing in the press release about, but Image continues to have a relationship with Diamond for bookstore distribution. Yeah. Funny story, now they don't. They're now going as of January next year with Simon & Schuster, which is simultaneously a very good choice and potentially a very bad choice for reasons that I don't think Image knew about at the time. So it's a very good choice because Simon & Schuster handles the distribution for Boom, Vault, Ahoy, Mad Cave, Z2, like a bunch of comic publishers. The problem, it might not be the best idea, is that just 3 days after that was announced, Simon & Schuster was bought. Or it was announced that they would be bought, I should say, by a firm called KKR, an investment company, is going to buy them. This is the second purchase of Simon & Schuster that has been announced in the last year. Last year, you may or may not remember, Penguin Random House was going to buy them.
That's right.
And the Department of Justice stepped in and went, no.
That's a
That is,
monopoly.
yeah, that is anti-competitive, and that is a very bad idea. And it went to court, and a federal judge said, "No, you're right. We can't let this go ahead." Um, and that was for a deal that was worth like $2.16 billion or
Mhm.
something. KKR, according to reports, I don't know the exact numbers because why would I? I am but a lonely serf. But it's apparently $1.6 billion, so it's dropped significantly in the price in the last 6 months since that has happened. But this is kind of a scary thing all of a sudden because investment companies, for anyone who's ever seen this happen before, like to buy companies and then see what they can do.
Yeah.
Like just start taking things out to see if things still work. A lot of comic publishers are with Simon & Schuster. A lot of them.
Mhm.
Image is just going to them.
Mhm.
And there's a very real possibility that Simon & Schuster's new owner will be like, what if we didn't have Simon & Schuster distribute other companies? What if Simon & Schuster only did Simon & Schuster? Which would be it would be calamitous for the comic industry.
But also, Image Comics below the big two is kind of the biggest dog that we have right now.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people who are primarily consumers of comics would think like, well, Saga would make that worth it. Well, The Walking Dead would make that worth it. Well, Black Magic, like these big name IP that Image has had for a long time that have either been successfully adapted or are in like active. We're all striking
Are in the process of being adapted. How about that?
pre-production,
Yeah.
that would save them, that there would be a value in that. But that's not the same as what somebody who's a traditional publisher, specifically in the book market, would necessarily look at as value compared to something like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, right?
Well, and also Simon & Schuster's only acting as a distributor, right? So
Yes.
their take is limited.
Mhm.
Okay, they can only do so much and they will only get so much.
Yeah.
Image is a very big publisher. It is the third biggest publisher in the North American market. It is a big player, and notably, I think it's the first big player to be with Simon & Schuster, of that scale
Yeah.
in terms of comics, right? So this is a big deal for Simon & Schuster as a distributor as well. It's really properly moving into a company that has, like you said, The Walking Dead alone has a significant bookstore presence.
Yeah.
Add in
Invincible.
Invincible, add in
Mhm.
Saga. You
Mhm.
have a significant amount of mainstream books that bookstores are going to want. Uh, is that still going to be enough for Simon Schuster to be like, we were thinking about dropping distribution, but now we've changed our mind? That's entirely open to question. The KKR deal leaves everything incredibly open to question.
Yeah. It's interesting to see that, like, from a Simon and Schuster point of view, like, Image is a good get because they do have these sort of valuable multimedia IPs. And then from a comics perspective, like, Image has a like more legitimate traditional publisher reaching out to the more traditional legitimate book market, because something like Barnes and Noble is still looked at as more legitimate than something like your local comic book store. Like, it's interesting to see
Sure.
value on both sides, at least at first glance.
There is significant value, I think, to retailers in general. The thing that's worth remembering is comic stores can order from Simon Schuster as well.
They sure can.
A lot of comic stores do their graphic novel distribution from the mainstream book distributors
Yeah, Baker and
because the
Taylor for a
quality,
long time too. Yeah.
yeah, because the quality has been better. The
Yep.
quality of service has been better. Diamond has had many complaints for years about its quality of distribution, and part of that is literally they had a monopoly for a
Yeah.
long, long time, right? And that allowed them to be, lazy is perhaps a bit harsh, but it allowed them to just stay where they were because
Yeah.
where else was anyone going to go, right? And so when you bring in Lunar and Penguin Random House for individual issue distribution, and then you bring in Simon Schuster, Penguin Random House, and other entities for bookstore distribution, that really changes.
It's fascinating to have this discussion. We've talked about a monopoly twice now, right? Where in the purchase and merger of Simon and Schuster at
Mhm.
Random House, that was too big. So federal regulators stepped in and said, no, 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 thank you. But Diamond has been running the comics industry
Mhm.
for a long, long time. And that market is small enough that federal regulators said, that's fine. We don't
Yeah, because
care about
because there
that.
was actually an inquiry into whether Diamond was a monopoly, and they indisputably were.
Yes, 100.
They,
If you've
they
ever worked in comic retail, they were.
at the time, I want to say this was in the early 2000s, maybe it was
Yeah.
even the late 90s, but they were the only distributor who were handling Image, DC, Marvel at the time. Dark Horse.
Yeah.
the only distributor. So they literally were the definition of a monopoly. And the government looked at them and then were like, it's fine.
That's
Which
funny, but
is,
yeah.
I mean, amazing, just genuinely stunning.
Yeah.
And I think part of it was no one wanted to be competition per se.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like other distributors would have wanted that business, but I don't think any publisher necessarily would have been like, we'll go with someone else. DC in 2020 saying we're going to go with Lunar and DCBS as it was.
It was huge.
You know,
That
it
was
was huge.
Yeah.
It was a game changer because it was
Yeah.
the first time in literally decades that a significant publisher was willing to go outside of Diamond, and I think that opened the door. You know, I
But do
think
you
that
remember
opened the
when
door for
people
everyone else.
thought that that was going to be the downfall of our local comic book stores? And
People
the
still think
downfall?
that's going to be, that specific thing is going to be the downfall. We are 3 years after that happened,
Yeah.
and we have seen Marvel, Dark Horse, IDW, and Image all jump ship from Diamond.
Yeah.
Like all of the big 5 companies that Diamond boasted are gone from Diamond, which is extraordinary when you think about it. But we still have people, there are still people out there thinking that DC going with Lunar is going to be the death of the industry, as opposed to everything else. Which is
Right. I mean,
amazing.
there's a lot of things to debate about. Is the industry dying and what will the inevitable death be? But that's a different conversation from a different time. I would love to ask, because I know you know a lot more about like the Simon & Schuster of it all than I do. Do you think they'll be sold again before they start distributing it?
I
Is
think
this a DC Comics? Is this a Time Warner, AT&T, 5G
I think the KKR deal
merger?
is going to go through.
Okay.
I think that they're going to, I don't think, well, there's no monopoly thing to stand in that,
This
right?
time, yeah.
They don't own, I think KKR owns an audiobook company, but that's not enough to have someone step in and say this is a monopoly.
I'm trying to imagine an audio saga.
An audio monopoly.
And particularly if you've read the first issue of Saga, it would be quite something.
But I think that deal's going to go through. I don't think anything else is going to happen to it in the short term.
Yeah.
I'm very curious what they want with Simon & Schuster and what they're buying, to be honest. Because again, Simon & Schuster is predominantly a publisher in itself.
Yes.
In addition to a distributor, right? So like Penguin Random House. Penguin Random House is simultaneously a publisher and a distributor. And so when
the
Marvel
DC
deals with Penguin
line being a really good example of that.
Yeah. And so when Marvel works with Penguin Random House, they're working with them as a distributor. Image is working with Simon & Schuster as a distributor, not a publisher. The question is, does the new owner still want the publisher? Does it want the distributor? What does it want? What is it actually buying? Because I don't think people necessarily think of them as a distributor. So they might just decide, yeah, we don't really want that. Maybe people sell the distribution part of it.
That would be so wild if like in a year or in sort of like an 18-month period, if it was like, wow, they've sold the Simon & Schuster, this is huge. Again, there's like there's a sense of legitimacy on prose publishing that comics just doesn't have in North America. It would be so fascinating.
Which is funny when you consider the sizes of respective markets, right?
Well, yes, and that romance is what is keeping traditional publishing propped up on its back with a brace and aspirin. It will be fascinating if nothing comes of it, but it will also be fascinating to see what does come of it in a year, 18 months, 5 years from now.
And again, like you said, nothing might come of it.
Yeah,
they might just want to own, like this investment company might just want to own a big name publisher. That might be the end game.
Yeah,
we want the legitimacy even that comes from owning a publisher of this size, a company of this size, and of this name, and they'll just, everything will be fine, you know. Or it could be they only want the name and they don't care about the extra services, including distribution, so they'll sell that. It could be that they close it down altogether, which again would be a disaster for comic publishers, and particularly a disaster for Image, which again, this new arrangement with Image only starts in January. You know, there is, in theory, in worst case scenario, there are 4 months for the new owners to decide they don't want a distribution arm and announce its closure before Image even starts getting bookstore distribution from them.
Which wouldn't be the first time it happened. I wonder if people inside Image are trading on the cool, like Image has a high cool factor, even in comics, but also in the books that have sort of broken into the more mainstream market. So I wonder if they're just like hoping that them being cool means that they will survive this merger.
Image is going to be fine no matter what. Right?
Oh yeah.
Like of all the publishers, if Image has to find a new distribution, again, I can't speak this morning. I'm sorry. Needs
Good
to find a new
morning.
distribution partner, then it can.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There are going to be multiple people who want to distribute Image comics for the very reasons you said. They have Walking Dead, they have Saga, they have Invincible, they have any number of big books and books that people in outside of comics in bookstores recognize. There was a sales chart for the New York Times last week, I think, when I was
Mhm.
looking at. And it became very clear that, do you know what people in bookstores really want to read in terms of comics? They want to read manga and they want to read things that have TV shows. And that's
Oh, I
it,
mean, yes.
right? And Image has a bunch of those titles.
Yes.
It really does. And because the bookstore market isn't looking for the Marvel or DC books, it just doesn't.
Yeah.
But it is looking for an Invincible. It is looking for a Walking Dead.
They do have a number of books that if they were marketed correctly, like could appeal to manga fans. Like
Mhm.
anything Dustin Win, I think that style is similar enough that you could sell that to somebody who likes Jujutsu Kaisen or something like that.
And if nothing else, to sort of get back to what you originally
Yeah.
asked me way back when, this is a great deal for Image because Diamond Book Distribution has basically been very competent
Mhm.
at distributing, but I wouldn't say it's been particularly good at selling the books. Right? Your
Yes.
books are going to get there.
Yes.
You'll get what you ordered. But in terms of promotion, I'm not sure they ever did it. And
Yeah.
so I think that Simon Schuster can do that and can speak to bookstores and actually promote these books in a way that is going to be very beneficial for, like you said, for the titles that are going for the different audiences that haven't been able to reach those audiences. Because one of Image's strongest strengths, one of Image's greatest selling points is that it offers everything.
Yes,
Right?
very much.
It can do any sort of comic, and that's sometimes a problem in the direct market where the audience wants, maybe 3 different things.
Mhm.
But in the bookstore market, you do have this wider audience out there who are willing to buy stuff.
Especially if you shelve them not just in that one little comics aisle that
Mhm.
every single Barnes& and Noble or, like, traditional prose retailer has.
Yeah, there is a significant untapped market out there for Image. Honestly, for a lot of publishers,
Yeah.
that the bookstore market was, I'm old. The bookstore market in the early 2000s was the great undiscovered country, right? It
Yeah.
was the thing that was going to save comics back when saving comics was a conversation people actually had seriously. And it still is. It
Yeah.
still is this untapped market that once someone works out how to appropriately crack it,
Mhm.
there is an entire audience out there that wants to read this material that just doesn't have the understanding to do so yet.
What I find fascinating about this particular story is that you and I will come back to it in
Mhm.
some way, shape, or form within the next year. I'm not sure how, and I'm not sure if it's gonna be on the Image side or the Simon& and Schuster side, but, like,
Or
this is
both.
or both, yeah, or maybe they're gonna have a really nice time or a really bad time. We're hoping for a really nice time.
Let's hope for a really nice time, right?
Yeah, for sure. Graeme, before I banish you back into the Popverse, I haven't asked you this in a couple weeks, so let me ask you this right now. Keeping in mind, at the time of this recording, struck work. What are you geeking out about right now that you're not working on?
I mean, I'm lots of things I'm not working on. This happened before San Diego, and I keep revisiting it. I've been revisiting old Eddie Campbell comics a lot.
Oh, really?
I am a big fan of Eddie Campbell's Alec. It's one of my favorite comics, hands down, hands down. And he just before San Diego put a new autobiographical comic out called "The Second Fake Death of Eddie Campbell," which is a sequel to "The Fate of the Artist," which came out 20 years ago now, I think, at least 10.
Mhm.
Um, and it's wonderful, and it sent me back to reading his old autobiographical stuff from the 1980s when he's 20 years old and having failed relationships and not quite knowing who he is. And it's just, to this day, it's some of the most beautiful, moving, funny comics that I can imagine existing. And every single time I reread it warms parts of my heart I didn't know were there.
I also do feel like Eddie Campbell's the kind of stuff where if you have not read it by this point in your life and you are a person who's into comics, it becomes required. It's like getting your master's degree.
And for anyone who is curious about it, find I think it's Three Piece Suite is the collection. Graffiti Kitchen is
Mhm.
just 48 pages, and it is, if you don't like that, you don't like Eddie Campbell,
Yeah.
because it is everything in one 48-page story, and it is, again, utterly beautiful, heart-stoppingly beautiful.
Aw, that was so lovely, Graeme. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next week, and I banish you back into the podcast. Thank you so much, Graeme. Oh my gosh, what a fun chat. I always love talking comics with Graeme. I feel like we get extra nerdy when we get to talk comics. So now I want to go back and I want to talk a little bit about Popverse and about Comic-Con. So I talk about the Popverse membership here a lot. I bring up this handy dandy graphic and I encourage you to support and become a member, because when you do that, you get access to everything that we do. Because here in the Popverse, we are creating video content, we're creating social content, we're creating memes, polls, editorials, articles, features, all kinds of incredible stuff across a ton of different media experiences. And the only way to unlock all of that and get the most access possible is to get yourself a Popverse membership. And as a paid Popverse member, you get all of these amazing benefits, including exclusive and early access to articles and panel videos. I work really hard curating and creating a lot of these panel videos for you, and things that I think that you will like, and things that everyone on Team Popverse, Chris and Veronica and everybody else, we know what you want and we are bringing it to you. It's a completely ad-free experience if you become a Popverse member. So you don't even get to hear us talk about Popverse memberships. It's just all of the content in its pure raw form on the website. And you also get to support what we're doing here as a whole, and that can keep us growing, expanding, and doing all kinds of incredible new things. Like this year, I got a chance to go and cover RuPaul's DragCon for you, which is something that we didn't get to do in a previous year because of our membership and because of supporters and because of so many incredible people who believe in the work that I am doing, the work that Graeme is doing, the work that Chris is doing, the work that Tiffany's doing, the work that everybody is doing here in the Popverse. So, I mean, consider becoming a paid Popverse member, because then you just get all the best stuff and you get the most of us as an experience possible. Plus, so remember earlier when I did this and I showed you that I'm hosting this sick Ewan McGregor spotlight panel at New York Comic Con. See, again, there's my name highlighted right there. Look, how cool is that? If you want to be able to watch this panel live, if you are from somewhere outside of New York City, if you are from somewhere outside of the United States, if you are, I don't know, maybe like some of my countrymen in the Great White North. And yes, I do have the complete Alpha Flight set. Thank you so much. You just can't see it because it's off screen right now. But if you want to be able to have access to this, we want all of our incredible supporters all over the world to have the most complete Popverse experience, even if you can't leave your home to do so. And one of the ways that you can do that is by becoming a Popverse member. That allows you and will allow you to stream this panel from New York Comic Con. If you're an Our Flag Means Death person, you're definitely doing yourself a disservice if you're not getting a paid membership, because we have so much Our Flag Means Death content. We have so much Star Trek content. We have so much Star Wars content, including the Ewan McGregor panel coming up at New York Comic Con. Like I said, I am hosting it. Tune in on Thursday, October 12th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time to watch the Ewan McGregor Spotlight panel from the Empire Stage at New York Comic Con. You get handsome Ewan McGregor, you get handsome Ashley Victoria Robinson, and you get a handsome Popverse experience. I'm just so jazzed about it, and I really hope that you will, join us, because I want everyone there as much as possible. I want everyone to be as engaged with what we're doing, because I am really proud of Enter the Popverse and everything that we're curating at Popverse. And I know that you're going to have the best time if you join us. So consider that Popverse membership. Just give it a think. So I know you may have come here today because you saw the thumbnail, you saw who was on the thumbnail. By the way, we have a bunch of great content in various media forms surrounding him, and a couple that are exclusive to members. So please join me one more time this show in the traditional Enter the Popverse Theater Kid round of applause to welcome the Eisner-nominated, award-winning author and creator of comics and graphic novels, including the Vigil and Detective Comics, in this interview that we filmed live at San Diego Comic-Con. Please join me in welcoming Ram V. Ram V, welcome back to the Popverse. Happy San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, happy San Diego to you too, and pleasure pleasure to be here.
How has it been? You're the king of all the announcements. Your exclusive is the top thing right now.
Is it?
Yes.
Well, that's nice of you to say. But yeah, no, I'm very excited to be here. It's my third ever San Diego.
Wow, casual.
Yeah, and it's really cool to, first time I came here, I had no books out, one or two things, and it's nice to be announcing an exclusive at DC at this one, and having people talk about it feels great.
Can you tease any Detective Comics or Vigil readers about what they can maybe look forward to in coming issues?
Yeah, I mean, we already announced Batman Outlaw,
yes.
Which comes out, I think, towards the end of the year. It's kind of a Sergio Leone spaghetti western mixed with the gothic opera that we've been doing so far. It has some repercussions for Gotham, some big repercussions for Batman. And who doesn't love a story about some 6 or 7 ne'er-do-wells getting together to rescue someone? So yeah, it's that kind of a story. I'm very excited to be working with Jason Sean Alexander on the art, whose work is amazing. So that's what's coming on Detective. With Vigil, I think the next issue has some big revelations that completely reframes all that you thought was true about the Vigil for the first 3 issues.
Okay.
So I'm kind of excited for people to see that. And then obviously with the exclusive kicking in, I'm in conversations to do a few very cool things coming up, which I cannot talk about, but yeah.
I'm imagining, since the exclusive has been signed, you just with your fingers and all of the pies, trying to touch everything in the DC universe.
Some of it, but also like, my endeavor has been to take on some unusual characters and some unusual titles here and there, so I'm glad I'm getting to do some of that. And also, even with the sort of more mainstream popular stuff, I'd love to be able to take on some of the characters, some of the series that haven't been around for a while, and go like, hey, look, we're starting this again. So yeah, I think you'll see a few things in that vein from me going forward. Yeah.
So just because you evoked Sergio Leone earlier when we were talking about like Detective Comics, who would score that run? Like, what would the soundtrack to that be? Because when I think of Sergio Leone, I think of The Ecstasy of Gold and all those incredible soundtracks.
I've been literally scripting to The Ecstasy of Gold, so of course it has to be Ennio.
Yes.
But sadly, I can't get Ennio to actually make music for my comics. I'm a big fan, big fan of the Morricone soundtrack, but also generally a big fan of that genre and what you can do with it. Because it's amazing. You can write a Batman comic without having people in cowboy hats and spurred shoes, but you can still evoke all of those sensibilities. So hopefully people hear in their minds The Ecstasy of Gold playing as they watch this storyline unfold.
That's homework for everyone. You go make a Spotify soundtrack with all of the Ennio Morricone.
I will gladly put out a recommended Spotify soundtrack.
You should. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I scoured your Twitter and I have 20 this or that questions for you.
Okay.
I want the first answer off the top of your head.
Okay.
Detective Comics or Action Comics?
Detective.
Detective Comics or Batman?
Batman.
Detective Comics or The Vigil? Choose between your children.
That's rough. No, I don't choose between my children. I will juggle them both.
The Bat Family or the Al Ghouls?
Aren't the Al Ghouls also in some ways Bat Family?
Yeah, that's a good answer. Catwoman or Talia?
I'm not getting into that. Where's the exit?
Batman or Robin?
Batman.
Batman or Aquaman?
Both?
Aquaman or Namor?
Aquaman.
That's correct. San Diego Comic-Con or staying home?
Eating and drinking by the bayfront at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yes. Writing or drawing? Because you are a prolific sketch artist as well.
Yes. I can't do one without the other.
Fair. Very fair. Superhero stories or heist stories?
Heist stories?
Writing to Tool or writing to Taylor Swift?
writing tool.
Yeah, I loved that.
No
tweet.
offense, Taylor Swift.
English or Francais?
English.
North America or Europe?
Europe.
New York or Chicago?
New York, because I lived there. I do like Chicago.
Everything bagels or plain bagels?
Everything bagels.
Yes. Real demons or psychological demons?
What's the difference?
Ooh, that's a good answer. Digital or physical comics?
Physical.
And then lastly but not leastly, Twitter or Instagram?
Twitter.
Twitter, good answer. Also, bold answer in these times.
It's okay. I use both as a broadcast, and it only tells that I enjoy using words more than I enjoy using pictures. So.
Thank you for playing that game with us. I also want to ask, you have so many incredible artists who are working with you. So what is your workflow like, and is it different with all of your collaborators?
Yeah, I think it has to be. I was actually talking about this yesterday with a few artists.
Say their names.
Well, no, I was at a big table,
I
bunch of writers and artists around, and I was saying, it's almost like you have to build a relationship to where you understand your collaborator on a deeper human level, and so you can almost predict what their reaction is going to be to something you put in the script. So sometimes you put something mundane in the script knowing that your artist is not going to like to do something mundane, and so they will do something cool with it.
Ooh.
Or you sometimes put, a ton of description in your script and then say, but yeah, ignore all that and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Knowing that your artist will absolutely take that on board. So yeah, it depends on who you're working with, and it's all the more reason to be friends with the people that you're actually collaborating with. Yeah.
Do you find that you do more full script or more description on an established character, or on something like the Vigil or your creator-owned work where you have a little bit more autonomy and control?
No, I feel like I do a lot of prescriptive scripting very early on in the run, because I feel like it's like any conversation, right? You need an icebreaker. So the prescriptive scripting is almost like an icebreaker, but once you have a language that you've established with your collaborator, you don't need that anymore.
Interesting. For anybody who's watching who wants to write and create and be a globetrotter like yourself, I clearly loved your adventures in England and France recently.
Right.
What is your best piece of advice to them?
Well, the globetrotting is just part of me. I've been traveling. Like, I literally, as I was clearing through immigration here in the States, I looked at my passport and they said, "Oh, you've been around, haven't you?" Like, yeah, I have. I love traveling, and I think it informs my writing quite a bit. But the advice for anyone who wants to write is, all you need is pen and paper. Sit down and write, and live your life, and tell stories that only you could tell because you've the experiences that you need to tell that story. Even if you're telling stories about, alien invasions and superheroes.
You just have to find your in to that time you were in an alien invasion.
Fundamentally every story is about you or the reader in some way. And so no matter how much dressing you put on top of it, it has to be a fundamentally human story at that point. Yeah.
So because you're talking about like every story is your story in some way, is there a character that you've written that you identify with the most, or maybe it's the easiest to slip your voice into?
I mean, to be honest, all of them
Ooh.
are they have pieces of me. Like,
this is why you got the DC exclusive. You're good at everything.
I mean, when I'm writing Batman and Detective, like, I'm 42, and 10 years ago I was 32 and I felt invincible, and suddenly at 42 I don't feel that invincible anymore, and that translates into writing a Batman who doesn't feel so invincible anymore. Saya in the Vigil, I've traveled so much, I don't really know that I identify as someone who feels very Indian or feels American or feels British. And so what's it like to have no identity, no face? And I'm using some of that into developing that character. So that's what I mean. I think there's a piece of writing advice that's very misunderstood when people say, write what you know.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, you know what it's like to be 42 and not be 32 anymore. Use that. You know what it's like to be from different places. Use that. And I think that is what that advice is meant to say. And yeah, I think if more people did that, we'd end up with stories that felt closer to the heart in a lot of ways.
So we're not getting a Batman story where he's being interviewed at the top of the DC booth at San Diego Comic-Con?
We could. Someone wants to commission that one. Yeah.
My final question, because in the Popverse we love to celebrate the best in TV, movies, and comics. What are you geeking out about right now that you are not working on? So probably no Batman.
Yeah, I'm playing a lot of Path of Exile right now.
Oh my gosh.
And Path of Exile 2 comes out soon. Very excited about that. If people look at my scripting schedules, every time there's a new league that starts, I'm like, I'm out for a week. Don't call me. Don't ask me to turn in stuff because I'm going to be playing Path of Exile. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Thank you so much for joining us here at San Diego Comic-Con.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
That was so much fun getting to talk to Rom. That was actually my second time interviewing Rom. If you're new to the Popverse world and our extended universe, as part of our first ever outing as the team to San Diego Comic-Con, I interviewed him about Aquaman and Andromeda, and then this year about the DC exclusive and so many more incredible things coming up in his future. And I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to share that with you because he's a really fun guy. Also, I'm not going to lie. Sitting on the top of the DC booth is like one of the cooler things I have ever had a chance to do at San Diego Comic-Con. So getting a chance to share that with you was really special. I think my excitement comes through. I have zero chill, if you haven't noticed. And it was one of the funnest things that I got to do at San Diego. So I hope we will get Rom in the future live on the show. If that's something that you would like to see, I would actually love to read about that in the comments of this video, or you can tweet us at Popverse Says. You can find us pretty much everywhere on socials at Popverse Says. But let me know. Let me know if we need to up the Rom V content here in the Popverse. Friends, thank you so much for joining us this week on Enter the Popverse. We will be back live in 3D and in living color next week. But as always, you can find everything that was referenced here today down in the show notes. If you want to expand on some of these stories or find some other coverage on similar topics, don't forget to read the full story always at thepopverse.com, where we are celebrating the best in TV, movies, and comics. While you're over there, why not get yourself a Popverse membership? Just sign up now so that you can never, ever, you won't forget. You won't miss out on this exciting stuff that's coming up for New York Comic Con and some of the stuff that we're paving the way with until then. I can't spoil it for you, but it's really exciting. And I know you're going to want to check it out. So please consider coming and getting yourself a membership. Don't forget, like I said, New York Comic Con tickets are on sale now. More news is coming out about it each and every single day. I am going to be there. Graeme is going to be there. So many incredible, beautiful, sexy people are going to be there doing all kinds of incredible things. And we would love to see you October 12th to 15th in New York City, the greatest city in the world. Maybe if I'm feeling brave next time, I'll do the Matt Berry, New York City. We'll see. Subscribe and click that bell, exactly what this fun little ticker is saying right now, so you never miss a single gosh dang video that we're doing here inside the Popverse, especially live episodes of Enter the Popverse, because they happen at a specific time in a specific place, and I love having so many of you here with me live. As always, I have been Ashley Victoria Robinson, your video producer and host here in the Popverse. Thank you again so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time.